We've already let the horse out of the barn, and practice pointer. Defense can take stands. Usually a good time when the judge comes out and says, hey, is there anything to let the judge know? Dr. Mericle, you've already started testimony. To be clear, that horse is sort of already out of the barn. We could obviously take things, but it's my understanding you do wish to testify. Is that correct? Great. All right, come on up. Let's bring him back. Thank you. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Thank you. Y'all can be seated. Thank you. Members of the jury, I want to commend the lawyers for their advocacy. They're doing their jobs, and I appreciate them advocating for each side of their respective positions. As I stated very early in jury selection process, this is natural, and we appreciate y'all's patience with the court as we hash out some legal issues. The court has overruled the hearsay objection and rules that the answer is not for the truth of the matter asserted, but only to potentially explain defendant's potential actions. As with any witness, issues of credibility are solely within your discretion. To be clear, the court is making no comment on the evidence one way or the other, and it's my understanding that defense has an objection to that. That objection is noted.
Thank you, Judge. Okay. I'm going to orient you to where we were, okay?
Okay.
Let me show you what's been previously admitted. It states 15, okay?
Yes.
I'll put it up on the... What is that of?
That's a picture of our foyer area, the living room area where we were seated that night.
Where was it that you said you had gone?
To the bathroom.
Okay. And can you show us, can you kind of show it? Maybe I'll use the pointer here. Can you show us which way you'd have to go to get there from this picture?
I have to go this way.
Did you hear that? She couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I have to go this way.
Just for a second.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want with it. Yep.
I have to go this way.
Okay. Which way is the bathroom on this picture?
This side, right over here. The bathroom's back there.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. After you come back from the bathroom, is that when you see him with the phone?
Yes, he had my phone.
What was his demeanor? What was his, I guess, attitude, if you will, when you came back in?
You could tell he was angry.
Was he making any statements to you?
He just asked me how long have I known him? Where did I meet him? How long have I known him? Where did I meet him? Have I slept with him?
Okay. And did Mr. Barron accept your responses that you were giving back?
He did, except for the last one. When I said I didn't sleep with him, he called me a lying whore.
And what happened after he did that?
After he did that, after he called me a lying whore, then he stood up and he came over there to me and put both of his hands around my neck and started choking me.
Okay. Could you breathe with both of his hands around your neck?
No, I could not.
Were you capable of breaking free from his grip or getting loose or anything like that?
No, I was not.
Why not?
He's very strong.
How long does he have his hands around your neck?
Probably for about 30 seconds, maybe.
What happens after that?
After that, he drops his hands and he grabs both of my wrists and he pulls me up and he takes me and twists me against the living room wall, slams me against the living room wall, and then he slams me against the door frame. And he lost his balance at the door frame, and I ran into the bedroom, and he followed me into the bedroom, and he goes right to the dresser by the side of the bed, and he gets his gun. And I ask him,
Is this the state's exhibit? When you say gets his gun, I'm going to show you. State's exhibit 190. Can you take a look at that? Is that the gun?
yes, it is.
Where are you now where he's got the firearm? Where are you?
Can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, I was away from the microphone. Where are you when he's got the firearm?
I'm standing in the bedroom.
And what happens after he picks up the firearm?
I asked him what he's doing with the firearm. I asked him what he's doing with it, and he said, protection against intruders is what he said.
What did you think he was getting the firearm for?
To shoot me.
And he tells you he's not getting it for that? He gives you some other explanation?
Exactly, right.
What did you make of that statement, I'm getting it for intruders?
I didn't think that was, I thought that was just an excuse because I still thought he was getting the gun out to shoot me.
After that, where does he go?
After that, he goes into the living room.
And what do you do?
I follow into the living room and I start looking for my phone.
Were you able to find your phone in the living room?
No, I was not. And I asked him for my phone and for the keys to his car. And he told me I wouldn't get the phone and that no one was going anywhere tonight.
Where are you right now when he's saying all those things?
I'm in the living room.
Does he have anything besides a gun?
No.
Put something on his shoulder?
He put his, when he went upstairs, he put his satchel bag on his shoulders.
Okay, what's the satchel bag?
It's like a briefcase. It's what he owns. It's his briefcase, satchel bag. But he didn't put it on until he was going up the stairs.
Okay. What happens as you're there near the stairs and he's got the gun in the satchel bag?
He starts asking me other questions. He didn't have the satchel bag at this time.
Okay.
But he starts asking me more questions about Charlie English, asking me where he's from, what he does for a living, have I ever seen him, you know, and then he tells me that he asked me how long I'd been communicating with him, and I told him 2 to 3 weeks, and he told me I need to stop communicating with him. And I told him I would stop communicating with him once he stopped communicating with his lady friend. And he got mad and he grabbed my right arm and then he kicked behind my leg and made me fall down on my knees on the staircase.
After you're down on your knees, is he holding you with his arm or something? Has he got you in some sort of a grip?
Yeah, he's holding me with my arm. He's got a grip on me with his arm, holding my arm down like that.
What's he do after that?
After that, he tells me that he wants me to suck his big cock.
And is that something that you're interested in doing at this point?
No, I was not.
What do you do next?
And then he told me to help him undo his pants. And so I helped him undo his pants because he had a gun in his hand, his other hand. And I helped him undo his pants. Then he put his penis in my mouth and told me to suck it. And then he kept trying to make me suck it, give him oral sex. And then he grabbed me again, and he told me that I need to keep sucking, and I told him I couldn't, and I told him I started crying, and I was crying, and he told me to shut up and stop crying. And then he told me again to shut up, and then he said, you need to shut the fuck up. He said, if you don't, I'm going to take my fucking gun. And he held the gun up to my lips like that. He told me he was going to take his fucking gun and shove it down my fucking throat and shoot my fucking brains out. And then he told me, you belong to me. And then he pushed me backwards. And then he told me, don't close your eyes tonight.
Before you go any further, I want to show you a picture. Defendant's Exhibit 4, Defendant's Exhibit 5. Show you Defendant's Exhibit 4. This is Defendant's Exhibit 5, okay? Do you recognize this area on Mr. Barron's body?
Yes, I do.
How is it that his genitalia, if you know, ended up looking like that?
The night before, when I got there Thursday night, I was in the shower, and he got in the shower with me and told me that he wanted me to shave his genital area.
Is that something that you were interested in doing, that you wanted to do for him?
No, it wasn't.
How was it that he got you to do it?
He pushed me down on my knees. He grabbed the back of my head, back of my hair, and he pushed me down on my knees. And he told me, oops, I'm sorry. And he handed me a razor and told me to shave it.
Is this the way his penis looked on March the 7th?
Yes, it is.
At some point, does he go up the stairs?
Yes, he does.
Okay. Now, at this point, what is it that you're thinking as he's gone up the stairs? Are you thinking that you're safe?
No, I'm not. I'm thinking that I need to get out of there.
Has he ever, in the past, gone up the stairs to that same exact room and you not been safe?
Yes, it has.
When did that happen?
It happened on the night of February the 16th, February 15th, 16th.
Is that the night you got charged with a DUI?
Yes, it is.
On the night of February 15th, I want to talk about that for a minute, okay?
Okay.
What happened on that night?
We were sitting in the living room watching TV, and he started talking about the down payment on the mortgage. He started talking about the payment on the mortgage, that he wanted me to use to sell. I was selling my dental practice, and he wanted me to use the money from that to pay the mortgage off.
Okay. And the jury has some idea about how much money was owed on this property in February of 2025?
1.33.
What was it that Mr. Barron wanted you to do as far as that 1.33 that was owed?
He wanted me to pay it off with the money from my selling my dental practice.
All of it?
All of it.
Was that a good idea? Is that something you wanted to do?
No, it was not.
How was it that he brought this up to you? How did he express to you that he wanted this to be done?
He just told me, we were sitting there and he brought it up, that he wanted it for me to pay the mortgage off. He said it would help him out if I could just pay the whole mortgage off, and it'd take away our payments.
Okay. And so did you agree to do it?
No, I did not.
And how did he take that?
Well, I got up to get a bottle of water, and he followed me in the kitchen, and he kept telling me I needed to do that, and I told him I wasn't going to do that, that I wasn't comfortable putting that much money down, that that was for my retirement, to be put away for when I retire. And he got mad, and he slung me up against the refrigerator door like 2 times.
And did he do anything else after that?
And then he went up, he got his satchel bag, his phone, his keys, his whatever, I think that's it. And he went upstairs with the satchel bag and his keys and his phone.
Did he go up to the same room that we see on Defendant's Exhibit 6?
Yes, he did.
This one here? I didn't ask you that very well. Is this the same room that he went into?
Yes, it is.
And was that the end of the matter on February the 15th? Was that the end of the matter?
No, it was not.
What happened?
He stayed up there, and I went ahead and got ready for bed. And I got in bed, and I was reading a book in bed, and I must have fallen asleep. And then when I woke up, he was sitting beside the bed, and he had his gun out, and he was tapping it on my foot.
He's sitting beside the bed in which bedroom?
In the master bedroom, sitting on my side, right up next to the bed. He was standing or sitting like right there.
And he tapped you on your foot with what?
With his gun.
Was the gun still in the holster, or was it out of the holster?
It was out of the holster.
Did this tapping wake you up?
Yes, it did.
Was that the end of it?
No, it wasn't. No, I woke up and I was terrified. I didn't know why he had his gun out. And then he started telling me. I sat up immediately and asked him what was going on. And he said to me that he was sorry for what he did, and that he understood that I couldn't pay the whole amount, and that he loves me and wants us to be together.
And was that the end of it?
No, that he walked over to the other side of the bedroom, and he put his gun and he put my phone. He had my phone. He put it up on the dresser, and then he crawled into bed with me. And then he put his arms around me and kept telling me he loved me and wanted us to be together, and that if I could just pay maybe just half the mortgage then.
So that would be what, 600 and
600 and something.
600 something? Okay. Did you agree to do it?
No, I said no, that I didn't feel comfortable doing that either, that I just wanted to pay my regular mortgage payment every month.
And then what?
And then when I said no, that I didn't want to do it anymore, and I asked him, I said, are you still paying for your lady friends, her expenses every month?
Okay.
And he looked at me.
And your lady friend means?
Lilia.
Okay. You brought that up to him?
Right, I brought that up to him. And then he got mad and he grabbed both of my arms and he put them above my head. And then he lifted up my shirt and started slapping my breast and my chest. He started slapping them very painfully and hard.
Had he ever slapped your breast like that and pinned you with your arms above your head before?
No, never.
So then what happened?
And then he slid me off the side of the bed and he tried to have anal sex with me.
Are you on your stomach or on your back when he slid
I'm
you?
on my stomach.
How do you know? Well, I guess that's a bad question. How do you know that that was his intent?
Because he tried to enter me.
Was he successful in entering your body?
No, he was not.
What happened?
Then he said that he wanted to get some lube. And so he turned around and walked into the bathroom. And when he did that, I got my phone and I grabbed my purse and I took off running. And I went outside to my car and I got into my car.
Were you wearing clothes?
I had a T-shirt on at that point. No undergarments on, just a T-shirt.
Did you make it to your car?
Yes, I did. I made it to my car.
And then what?
And then I was backing up, and he came outside. He ran out to the door, ran out the door, and I was backing up, and then I drove off.
I'll show you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 42. You take a look at that. Dates here in the columns here.
Okay.
You recognize that?
Yes.
Is that a call log from your phone?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately represent the calls that David Barron made to you on February 16th after you left the house?
Yes.
Move to admit Defendant's 42.
No objection.
What's the number?
42, Judge.
Admitted.
After you pulled away, did you receive any telephone calls from David Barron?
From who?
From David Barron.
Yes, I did.
Do you remember how many calls it was?
He called me about maybe 5 times, 5 to 7 times.
Let's take a look, okay? Defendant's 42. You see that first call right there at 10044?
Yes.
What does it say? Does it say that you received that call?
Said missed.
Okay. Let's look at 10042. You see that call?
Yes, it says I missed.
What time was that call?
That was at 2:19 a.m.
Okay. What about this one, 10041?
It says I missed that one, and that one was at 2:19, 56 seconds.
What about 1040?
That was at 2 minutes and 20, 2 o'clock, 2:20, 38 seconds, sorry.
What about 1039?
That was at 2:21, 14 seconds a.m., and I missed that call.
What about 1038?
That was at 2:21, 49 seconds, and I missed that call.
What about 1037?
That was at 2 o'clock, 22 minutes and 21 seconds, and I missed that call.
And what about 1036?
That was at 2:22:58 seconds, and I missed that call.
You keep saying you missed the call,
Yeah. It was ringing, and I didn't pick it up.
right? Look at 1035. What time was
That's at
that?
2:23:19 a.m., 19 seconds, and it says rejected.
Okay. What about 1034?
That's at 2:23:57 seconds, and it said I missed it. I just wasn't answering the phone.
Right. What about 1033?
That was at 2 o'clock, 2:24 and 33 seconds. And it said I missed that call as well.
What about 1032?
That was at 2:25, 10 seconds, and I missed that call as well.
And it looks like you tried to place a call here at 1031, is that right?
Yes, I guess so. That probably was a misdial, I don't know.
Who's that?
That's to my daughter, Mary Madden.
Looks like maybe it says not answered, 1030,
Right,
that one? That was to David Barron?
yes.
And then 1029.
It's at 2:39, 11 seconds, not answered.
That's from you to him, right?
Yes,
And then 1028,
that's from him at 2:40, 14 seconds, and I missed it.
and then we'll have to flip to the next page to see who that's from. Let me go here. Looks like you placed a call, is that right?
Yes,
Who's that to?
that's to Mary Madden, my daughter.
And 1025?
It's 2:51, 18 seconds, and I didn't answer the call
And who's that from?
from David Barron.
And this next call at 1024?
It's at 3:02 and 4 seconds, and I didn't answer that call.
Okay. So you probably weren't counting, but do you know how many that was? How many calls from Mr. Barron?
No, I do not.
We have heard some, or seen some evidence about some notes on your phone, or a note on your phone about this DUI night.
Right. Mhm.
In the notes in your phone about this DUI night, it doesn't have any of this information about this incident.
Right. It does not.
Why not?
Well, I wrote the note in case I had to go over what happened that night previously, so I would remember what happened that night, but I left out a lot of details, and I left out the truth in it. And the reason I did that is because he was going to help me with this, and if he saw that I said anything like that or wrote anything, he'd be furious with me and he'd hurt me. So I knew not to say anything about what really transpired that evening.
Did you ever tell anybody about the things that Mr. Barron had done to you?
No, never.
What about your kids,
No, never. I never told anyone.
your sisters?
No, I never told anyone.
I want to ask you about the night when the police came to St. Simon's, okay?
Okay.
What was the place that you guys were staying, you and Mr. Barron?
We were staying at Seagate Inn.
And we've heard from the police officers
Right.
showed up. But can you tell us what happened earlier in the night?
Well, we went to a restaurant called Ember. We went out to eat. We were on St. Simon's. And in the middle of dinner, he said he didn't feel well. So we packed up our dinner and we left. And we get in the car and I asked him, I said, are you okay? He said, no, he's not okay. He said, you weren't paying attention to me in there. You were paying attention to all your friends. Because there were a lot of people in there that I knew. And I was just talking to him and saying hello to him. And I said, no, I was paying attention to you. And he said, no, you weren't. He said, why did I drive all the way from Gainesville to come here if you weren't going to pay attention to me? And then we were silent on the way home. And then we pulled into the parking garage. And that's when he asked me if I could do him a favor. He said, can you do me a favor? And I said, sure. And he wanted me to pay his mortgage for that month.
Okay, hang on. His mortgage means what?
His half of the mortgage payment that we make together.
Okay. At this time, we know what the mortgage loan amount is, but what is the monthly total payment, if you know?
It's about probably around $9,000. So between the two of us, it's like $4,500. I pay $4,500 and he pays $4,500.
Did you agree to fund his portion of the mortgage?
No, I did not.
And how did he receive that information?
He slapped me in the face.
And this was in the car?
This was in the car, yes.
Okay. Was that the end of it?
No, then I told him that maybe he needs to find another place to stay tonight. And I told him that I would get all of his stuff together and send it down the elevator. So I went upstairs to get his belongings and pack his bags. And I was up there doing it, and he comes up the stairs, up the elevator, I'm sorry. He comes upstairs and he's standing at the door, and he's trying to get in the door, and I'm standing in the way of the door, and he pushes the door open and makes me fall.
And what happened when you fell?
When I fell, since I was already on the ground, he kicked me in the side, and then he kicked me really hard in the head. And then he pulls me up from the ground. He put one hand on my neck and the other hand on top of my hair and pulls me up from the ground that way.
What happens after he does that?
Then the police bang on the door. But before that, when we were talking about why I wouldn't pay for it, I then made another statement that as long as he's paying for her monthly bill, that I would not pay for it.
Was that something he liked you to say to him?
No, that's when he slapped me in the face.
When the police got there, did you feel like what did you tell them? Did you tell them this is what happened?
No, I did not. I told him everything was okay.
What'd you tell them about Mr. Barron?
I told him that he was fine, that everything was good, that everything was going to be okay.
I'll show you. Show you what was marked as Defendant's Exhibit 13. Can you flip through those and see if you recognize those? And you can take your time, okay?
Okay. Yes, I recognize them.
Are these your texts with Mr. Barron?
Yes, they are.
Do they fairly enough represent your texts with Mr. Barron?
Yes,
from
they do.
March, from January 31st through January 31st to February
February the 3rd.
February the 3rd.
Yes.
Move to tender Defendant's Exhibit 13.
No objection.
Admitted.
I have the element back, I'm sorry. Showing you second page of Defendant's 13. Who's this message from?
It's from me to David.
Okay. And what is it that you're telling him there?
I said the EM came back and took me to the hospital and I had to spend the night for observation. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Now, was it true that an EM came back to your condo?
No, it was not.
What was Mr. Barron's response to you at 12:16 a.m. on the 3rd there?
He said, you should be ashamed of how you reacted. It was you who acted so terribly to have some persons call the police.
Your response to Mr. Barron is what?
I fell and I hit my head and they heard me. I talked to them today.
You talked to, are you inferring that you talked to the people who got called 911?
Yes.
But had you actually talked to them?
No, I had not. I was just trying to make him feel better
Feel better about what?
about what he did to me and that he knows I wasn't going to say anything. He was scared I was going to say something.
What's the next thing that you told him?
It says, I fell and hit my head and they heard me yell. I talked to them today. You did nothing. I held the door. You pushed and I fell. That's all. That's all that happened. I think you need to go find Lily and be with her. I hired a private eye and he told me that she has 8 men sending her money and you are number 9. It's a scam.
Now, had you actually hired a private investigator?
No, I had not.
When was the first time that you and Mr. Barron had violence in your relationship?
Probably in September of 2024.
Okay. And where did that take place?
We were in a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia.
You're staying at a hotel. Is anyone else staying at the hotel besides you and Mr. Barron?
Just us.
And what happened?
Well, we went to dinner at the hotel, and then we were coming back up the stairs, coming back up to the room, and we had a seat in the sitting area. And then he told me that he wanted to talk about the down payment for our mortgage.
Okay, so hang on, just so the folks
Okay.
know. When was it that you actually made the agreement or the mortgage or signed all that stuff for the house?
That was in October, so this is a month before we sign everything.
Okay.
And and so then he asked me about, we had decided beforehand to pay, each of us were going to put $300,000 down on the loan, so to lessen our payments, our monthly payments. And then that night he told me that he could only put $100,000 down, but he still wanted me to put the $300,000 down. And I told him I wasn't comfortable doing that I'd put whatever he put down, that is fine. If he could only do $100,000, then I'd put down $100,000. And then he also said that he wanted only his name on the house.
You mean he wanted on the deed or on the title or something like that?
Right, he just wanted his name to be on there, not mine.
Okay. And was this suggestion a suggestion that you were interested in following?
No, I was not.
So what happened?
And so he suggested that I paid the $300,000 and then he pays $100,000. I told him no, that I wouldn't do that. And he told me that I need to listen to him. And I told him that I was listening to him. I just wasn't agreeing with him because I didn't want to have my name on the mortgage only and then his name on it without mine, without on the house, the deed and the mortgage. I wanted both of our names on it because we were both putting in equal amounts of money. And he grabbed me by the chin right here. And he grabbed me and told me that I need to learn to listen to him. And then he turned around and hit me in the side of my head.
And was that the end of it?
No, it was not.
What happened?
He left. He went, I guess, I don't know where he went. He went downstairs or somewhere. He took the elevator and left the hotel room. And then he came back probably about an hour and a half later.
So hang on. He's put his hands on you, you say?
Yes.
Right? And then he just leaves?
Yes, he just leaves. He gets my phone
He took your phone?
off the table.
Okay.
And he takes his phone and he takes his satchel bag and he goes and leaves the room. I don't know where he went, but he left the room.
And how much time passed before he shows back up?
Probably about an hour and a half.
And is that the end of it? He just comes back and now everything's fine?
No, it's not.
What happens?
I was in bed already, and he came in there and he pulled me out of bed with my arm. He pulled me out of bed with my arm and told me that we were going to finish this conversation and that I need to learn to know that he's the boss, not me. And then he told me again to put down $300,000, and I told him I just wanted to put down $100,000 just like he did. And he didn't agree to that. And then I told him I wanted my name on the house as well as his name. He said he needed it for tax purposes and that he knew more about this stuff than I did. And I told him I needed it for tax purposes too. So I told him that I would not put down $300,000.
And that's the end of it? The whole
No.
night's over?
And then when I told him that, he told me he needs to teach me a lesson about listening to him. And he grabbed me by the hair, by the back of my head, grabbed me by the hair and threw me down on the bed. And then he sexually forced himself on me.
When you say sexually forced himself on me, what do you mean exactly?
He made me have sexual intercourse with him.
But this is someone you're having sexual intercourse with consensually before this, right?
Yes.
Well, what's the difference between the consensual sex you had with him and this?
Because I was being forced to have it with him. When we have it together, we both agree upon it, but I was being forced to have it, and I didn't want to have it at that time.
How is he supposed to know you don't want to have it?
Because I told him no. I told him to stop and leave me alone. I was yelling at him to stop and leave me alone.
And he didn't, did he
No.
respond to that?
No, he didn't respond. He told me to shut up, and he slapped me in the head again.
Did you think, because you said this is the first time, right?
Right, this is the first time that he had, before, maybe a couple of times, he may have like pushed me maybe a little bit, or grabbed my arm more so that way, but this is the first time he really like attacked me.
Did you think maybe that you should try to end this relationship?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Why didn't you do it?
Because I loved him, and I thought we could work it out.
I want to talk to you about another time down in St. Simon's. May I approach the witness? I'm sorry. Thought I gave you this already. Showing you defendant 68. Can you look at those? See if you recognize those. recognize those? Are these a fair and accurate representation of your text with Mr. Barron from January 20th, 2025 to January 20th, 2025 at 8:03 a.m.? It starts at 6:09 a.m. and runs to 8:03 a.m.
Okay, yes, they are.
Tendering defendants Exhibit 68.
No objection.
Admitted.
What do these texts relate to from 1/20/2025?
That's when he was leaving, when he the night before, he'd thrown my purse out the window of the car.
Okay. What were you guys arguing about?
About Lilia.
Okay. Can you read this first text for us?
Yes, it says, I am in such shock. I don't even know what to believe. All I know is you never, ever, ever loved me. I was such a fool.
And then let's go down to this bottom one.
This is where I was telling him what was still missing out of my purse when he threw the purse out the window the night before.
Okay.
I said my remote control for my hearing and my wallet are both missing. Those are missing. My medicine is missing from my purse when he threw my purse out the window.
Okay. And to orient these folks to that, tell us exactly what happened the night that he threw your purse out the window.
Well, we were at a restaurant eating dinner, and we were sitting out at the bar having dinner, and there was two other couples at the bar sitting there with us, and we were watching the Baltimore Ravens and another team they were playing. And I didn't hear what they said, but they asked him if we were Baltimore fans. And I asked David, I said, what did they say? And he said they wanted to know if we were Baltimore Ravens fans. And I said, well, I've been to a game before. I said, my son is a fan of Baltimore Ravens, like that. And they started laughing, and he started laughing. And he said, and they said, so you're a fan of Baltimore Ravens? And I said, I guess. And he said, that bitch can't even spell Baltimore, is what he said to them. And so I got kind of upset, and I asked him, I said, I'm ready to go. And so we got in the car, and I got mad at him and said, why did you say that about me in front of us? I said, you embarrassed me. And he said, oh, it was just, I was just kidding with you. It was just a joke, like that. And then we started going home, and he said, I'm not going to go home if you're going to be, I don't want to go home if you're going to be pouting or something like that. And I said, well, you hurt my feelings like that. And I said, you shouldn't have said that in front of those people. We don't even know who they are. And he said, I was just kidding with you. And then he got mad at me, and we kept talking about other things. And then he said that he's going to open the Porsche door and ruin my car. And then he said he's going to throw out my purse. And so he threw out my purse out the window of the car.
And the items that were in your purse included?
The remote control for my implant ear.
Okay. And this
And-
might be a good time to talk about that, okay? I meant to
Okay.
do it earlier. What do you have in your right ear for your ability to hear?
In my right ear, I have an Envoy implant I've lost my hearing in my right ear, so that provides my hearing. I have a remote control that I have over there, and I can coordinate my hearing to up and down what I need it to do.
And you say it's an implant, so what is that? Does that mean it's something that you can remove, or it stays in all the time?
No, it's an implant. It's inside of my mastoid process. I had to go through like a 7.5-hour surgery, and they put it in your mastoid process, and it's an implant that's covered up by your skin, your bone, by your hair, and I can't remove it.
Okay.
Every so often, I have to get the battery replaced.
What about on your left ear? What do you have for that?
My left ear, I wear a hearing aid.
Is that something that comes in and out?
Yeah, that comes in and out. I can take that in and out, and I have it battery operated.
Okay. I want to talk to you about one other thing that we've heard about, which is the thing from December the 28th, okay?
Okay,
You know what I'm talking about?
yes.
Tell us what happened on that night, and first tell us where you guys were.
Okay,
December the 28th,
yes, during the day or at night? You want me to tell you about?
when everything happened at night. Well, I guess
Okay.
you can, because it started in the day, didn't it?
Yeah, it started
Okay,
in the morning.
go ahead and start in the daytime.
Okay, so in the morning, we were going to go to Pottery Barn Outlet to look for some more furniture for our home. We had just moved in there, and we're on our way, and he's driving, and he wants me to put the address in my phone, the GPS address for Pottery Barn Outlet. And I said,
He
well, why
wants
don't
you to
give-
put the address in your phone to do what?
to go to Pottery Barn
The outlet.
Outlet. Mhm.
Why does he want to put it into your phone? Is he driving?
He's driving.
Okay.
Yes, so he asked me to put it into my phone and put the GPS in my phone, and I said, no, let me put it in your phone, because I'm going to be on my phone looking at more furniture and things, ideas, getting some more ideas. So he handed me his phone,
Okay, so you have possession of his cell phone? Okay,
and I started to put in the address. Well, then I see a couple texts flocking, they're coming in. There were like 3 or 4 texts that came in, and they had her name on it, Lilia Boken.
okay. Before this day, had you ever heard that name before or knew anything about who that was or anything at all?
No, I'd never heard her name before. I didn't know who she was.
Okay. And was it a concern for you to see messages from someone, probably a female? I assume you thought it was a female?
Yes, I mean, at first, I looked at it and I really kind of laughed and said, who is Lilia? I said, she's really trying to get in touch with you. And the look on his face was like shocked. And he reached over and grabbed the phone out of my hands. And that's when I knew it was something besides just some lady talking to him. And he tried to tell me that that's what it was, just some friend of his that was reaching out to him. And so I asked him to let me see the text, and he wouldn't let me see them. And he pulled off the side of the road, and we were arguing about letting me see the text and not see the text. And then he walked over to my side of the door, and he opened it up and told me to get out, that I could walk home.
And
We were probably-
where are you now in relationship to you all's lake house?
Probably about 25 miles away from the lake house.
Okay.
And
And
it
did you
was
take him
misting
up on the
outside.
offer to get out of the car and walk home?
Excuse me, say that again?
Did you take him up on his offer to get out of the car and walk home?
He pulled me out of the car.
Okay, so did you get out?
So I got out. Yes, I got out. He pulled me out of the car, and then I started walking home. And about 15 minutes later, he comes back and picks me up and tells me to get in the car. So I do. And then we just stay silent all the way home. And then I take a nap. I go in there and take a nap. And when I get up, I want to know if he'll talk about it with me. And I remember he was sitting in the chair, and I kneeled down in front of him. And he said that it was a lady friend that he met in 2019, that he went to Croatia with her for a week, and that the logistics of it didn't match for them to be together, but they just stayed friends, and they always notify each other on special holidays, things like this. So this was right after Christmas.
Okay, so he's telling you, this is just somebody I saw a long time ago from a European trip,
Right,
and I don't ever see them, so no big deal.
right.
Okay?
Okay, and I still asked him to let me see the text then if it was no big deal, and he told me he deleted them all. And so then we kind of stopped talking about it, and then we eat dinner, and then after dinner we started talking about it again. It brought it up, and we started talking about it again, and he didn't want to talk about it. He said he was going to leave. If I was going to continue talking about it, he was going to leave and go to a hotel.
Did you want him to leave and go to a hotel?
No, I didn't want him to leave. He'd been drinking, and I didn't want him out there driving.
So what'd you do?
So I reached in his pocket. He gave me a hug, and I reached in his front pocket, and I grabbed the keys out of his pocket. And then I took off, and I ran to the closet.
You're in the closet, you've got his keys, what happens after that?
Well, I didn't have his keys, really. I threw them up on the bathroom counter when I ran in there. I threw his keys up on the bathroom counter. but I ran in the closet away from him. And then he pushed me down in the closet, and all the clothes that I had folded up, he took all those and threw them on top of me, and then took out some hanging clothes and put those on top of me as well. And he kicked me when I was down there on the ground.
Did you place a phone call to his son, Evan?
Well, I placed a phone call to his son after when he pushed me down, and then he walked out of the closet, and then I walked out of the closet, and I looked over there, and he was getting his gun out of the drawer in the bedroom. So then I locked myself in the bathroom,
Okay.
and then I called his son, Evan,
You called from the bathroom while he's outside with the firearm.
right? He was beating on the door with it.
Had you pulled a gun on Mr. Barron that night?
No, I did not.
You phoned his son, Evan. Is that right?
Yes.
What were you telling Evan?
That I said, is this normal behavior for your dad? And he said, who's that screaming? I said, that's your dad. He said he could hear him screaming. And he said, and then he put his wife on the phone, and they were telling me how sorry they were, and that I didn't deserve to hear this, and that he was going to come over. Evan was going to leave his house and drive to the lake house, but he lives pretty far away. So then he said he'd call his younger brother, Colt, who lived closer, and get him to come over and help me. And he could hear his dad. He said, that's my dad yelling. And I said, yes, it is your dad.
Was there a point after, we're going to go back for a second, okay? We're going to talk about that September incident, the first incident that took place, the one in the hotel. Okay, you know which one I'm talking about?
Yes.
Was there a point after that September incident that things changed for you in your ability to sleep?
Yes, I began having nightmares.
And who was the content, or what was the content of the nightmares you had after that September incident?
David was.
Meaning he's in the nightmares that you're having?
He's in my nightmares, yes.
Was there an effect on your ability to sleep after you started having those nightmares?
Yes, I couldn't sleep at night.
I want to come back to March 7th, okay?
Okay.
I think when we left, he had gone upstairs and you're there at the bottom of the stairs, okay?
Right?
I'm sorry to jar you back into it, but I want to make sure we finish this, okay?
Okay.
After he's gone up the stairs and you're there on the bottom of the stairs, what is it that you're thinking and what do you want to do?
Well, I'm thinking that all I remember is that gun right in my face, and that I was terrified for my life at that point. And I was scared that he was going to hurt me. I was scared he's going to shoot me. And then I realized that I needed to get out of there, and I needed to get my phone so I could call 911 or get an Uber so I could leave and be safe. I didn't feel safe there anymore.
Why can't you just walk out the front door?
Well, because you have to go, when you get out of the house, there's a road in between the house and the main road, and it's almost 2 miles long, and it's pitch black dark, and there's wild dogs that live there. There's loose dogs that live on the road. They live on a bunch of small little farms, and there's a lot of loose dogs running around.
Is that road that leaves out of your house, is that a well-lit road?
No, there's no street lights on it at all.
Why don't you just use your phone and call 911 right then?
Because he had my phone.
Did you think about maybe going to the neighbor's house and beating on their door?
I thought about it, but I don't know any of the neighbors. We had not lived there very long, and I only waved at one neighbor one time, that's all. And I didn't even know who'd be home.
What did you do after he went up to the upstairs? Where did you go?
Well, I stayed downstairs first trying to decide what I needed to do. And then I went into the closet and I got my gun. And I walked back out. And I stood on the stairs thinking of what I needed to do, how to get my phone out of the room.
Did you think that you could just maybe go to sleep there that night and wait for him to come down and everything would be fine?
No, that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid if I did go to sleep and then he regrouped. When he got up there, he would regroup. He'd usually get up there. He'd usually lay down for a little bit, is what he told me. And then he'd come back down after he regrouped and decided what he needed to do. I was scared he'd come back down and either shoot me or hurt me somehow.
So what did you do with your gun?
So then I went up the stairs and I was telling him, I'm coming up the stairs. I'm going to shoot the lock off if you don't open the door. Take my phone and just put it outside the door. Just take my phone and put it outside the door. I just kept repeating myself. And I told him that if he didn't, I was going to shoot the lock off the door.
Show you defendants 5 again, or 6. Chris, do you have that over there?
6.
Could you see inside the room and know where he was?
No, I could not.
Could you hear inside the room? In other words, was he responding to you and letting you know or giving you some general idea where he was?
He only answered yes to me one time when I asked him if he had my phone, and he said yes. The other times, he would not respond. And when he did answer, it sounded like he was back in the corner by the bed, like laying on the bed, deep in the room.
You're standing outside the door, and tell me how you're feeling and explain to them what's going through your mind and how your body feels and all that.
Well, what's going through my mind is that I want him to open the door so I can get my phone so I can leave. I just wanted to get out of there. I was frightened. I was terrified for my life, really, at this point. I just wanted to get out of there. And then he asked me, what else did you ask me? What else
I just wanted you to describe how you're feeling for them.
Okay.
That's okay.
And then I was feeling like I could hardly breathe at this point, and my hands were shaking so bad. They were just shaking uncontrollably, and my heart was about to pop out of my chest. I was so scared.
Did you intend to shoot Mr. Barron when you pulled that trigger?
No, I did not.
Were you afraid for your life when you pulled that trigger?
Yes, I was afraid for my life. I was terrified for my life at this point.
Now, after you pulled the trigger, what was the first thing that you noticed that there might be a problem?
When I heard a gasp, I heard a loud gasp, and so I banged on the door and called his name out, David, David, and he didn't answer me. So then I ran downstairs really quick, as fast as I could, and got the hammer from the toolbox. And then I ran up the stairs again, and then I banged a hole in the door so I could get in there, and I stuck my left hand in there and undid the lock.
Once you got inside, explain to these folks what you saw in there.
When I got inside, I pushed the door open, and he was laying there in front of the door. And he was laying face down, and his face was to the right, to his right. And I immediately checked for a pulse, and I didn't feel a pulse. So then I found my phone, and I called 911. And I was on the phone with 911. And while I was on the phone with them, there was a brown towel on the floor, and I got that towel and pushed it up against his wound in his chest to keep the blood from coming out. So I was putting all the pressure on that area to keep it from coming out.
Why didn't you call 911 before you ran down the stairs and got the hammer?
Because my phone was in the room. I didn't have my phone.
Do you know how many times you tried to call 911?
A few times, maybe.
Okay. Did you also try to call somebody else?
Yes, after I called 911 and spoke with someone there, And then I was still tending to the wound on the side of his chest. I called my sister, Dana Gardner.
Did she answer?
No, she did not answer. I think I called her twice.
You're in the room now. You've called 911. Did you say you made contact with them?
Yes, I did. I called him once, and when I was cleaning up, I was putting the pressure on the wound. I dropped the phone.
Okay. What are you thinking at this time as you found him there? You know you've shot him.
Yeah, I know I shot him, and I was feeling hopelessness. I was feeling worthless. I felt like it was all my fault. I felt like everything was all my fault, everything from before and until that day.
So what happened?
So then I decided to get his gun, and I put it up under my chin. I was going to take my life, and then I put it up there, and I couldn't get it to stay under my chin. The gun I was shaking so bad, I couldn't get the gun to stay up under there. And I wanted to push it so bad, but I didn't have the courage to push the trigger. And so my gun just flipped out right there, and I shot the gun. And then I thought I would try it again and see if I could try to take my life, because I was at my wit's end at this point. I didn't know what to do. So I put the gun back up there again and tried to pull the trigger. And I kept pushing and pushing. And I just didn't have the courage to pull the trigger. So I just flipped the gun out again and took another shot. And then the gun got jammed when I was doing that. And I was trying to unjam the gun with the slider on the top part, and my tissue got stuck in there between my thumb and my forefinger. My tissue got stuck in there. So I'm trying to undo it. A lot of the bullets fell out of the gun. And so I decided to clean up the mess I made with all the bullets, because I didn't want anyone to know that I had tried to commit suicide, that I was thinking about taking my life for that. So I cleaned him up and I flushed him down the toilet.
Why didn't you just tell the investigators that that's what happened, that's why the gun got shot?
Well, I wish I would have been brave enough to tell him, but I was scared to death that if I told what really happened, that David would be furious with me, and he'd hurt me worse when he found out what I did.
No, but you could tell him about the suicide. You could still tell him about the suicide, can't you?
Well, I was ashamed that I even thought about taking my life, especially like in front of my children. I wouldn't want my children to think that I would just abandon them like that. So I was ashamed to tell anybody what I did.
Approach the witness. Sorry. Defendants 43 through 67. Can you flip through these and see if you recognize those? What number is that Facebook photo? You know the Facebook photo that Yes.
$238, $239.
238 and 239. Thank you.
Yes, I do.
You recognize those?
Yes, I do.
Do they fairly and accurately represent photos from the Bill Morgan class that you had that's related to the Facebook post that the state put in?
Yes.
Moving and tender defendants 43 through 67.
No objection.
Admitted.
You remember the state putting in a photo of you and Mr. Bill Morgan?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And there was tell me what your recollection is of what your statement was on that Facebook post. You know, that they put in. There's something about shooting or.
Oh, yeah, about
The
the
evidence will be
marks,
what it is, but I can't put my hands on the exhibit right now.
about the marksmanship, about breathing before you take a shot,
Yeah.
right?
Was that a post that you made in relation to a class that he was giving?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what was your nature or what was your relationship to that class? What were you doing? What were you trying to accomplish?
What I was doing that night is I organized a shooting clinic for Bill Morgan and the ladies that were interested in learning how to shoot a gun.
Okay. I'm going to show you defendants 43. Okay. And if you can, go through and tell me if you know all these people and who was shooting that day and all that, if you
Okay.
can.
Yes, I know all these women, and they were all shooting that day.
Okay. Do you know their names who's this?
Her name's Becky, Glenda, Wanda, Mindy, Sheila, Cindy, that's Jan, and that's Becky, that's Kathleen and Celia,
Okay, and who's this?
that's Bill Morgan.
Okay. What was the point of this class? Why were they having this class?
I organized a class for women that they knew I had posted before about me taking a lesson before. And so they were ladies that were interested in learning how to use a gun. And Bill Morgan was the instructor, and so I wanted to get him some classes.
Okay. Are you in any of these photographs that we have here?
No, I'm not in
Shooting.
any of I'm not.
Are you in any of the photographs shooting a gun?
No, I'm not. I didn't shoot that day. I just organized and took photos.
That statement in the state's exhibit about breathing and all that, how to breathe and do that, hit the bullseye, right? Is that the way that you pulled the trigger on March the 7th or 8th? Is that the way that you did it? This slow breath and calm and pulled the trigger?
No, it is not.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
I assume you're going to be a while.
Yes, Judge.
We're going to take I apologize. Y'all want to take an early lunch or take a 10-minute break and come back for about an hour or so? No preference? All right, so let's take a 10, 15-minute break and we'll come back and get through some work, okay? Thank you. Thank y'all so much. We're going to take a 15-minute break, come back. Depending on the demeanor of the jury, will probably go to about 12:30 roughly. So we'll get back a little bit, maybe 11:40, and then go. And obviously, at an appropriate time, we'll break, whether that's 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, and then I would assume we'll pick back up after lunch.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Anything from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense? No, sir. All right. Brief recess. Thank you.
Hi.
So David Barron, he's not here to testify, is he?
No, he's not.
And you told a whole bunch of stories about Mr. Barron, correct?
Yes, I told a lot of information, yes.
All about things that Mr. Barron has said and done to you, correct?
Yes,
And Mr. Barron's not here to be able to tell his side of the story, isn't that right?
right.
Because you killed him, correct?
Yes,
And all those events that you talked about, was it always just you and Mr. Barron in the room or in the home when those events happened?
yes.
So we've got you, and we've got Mr. Barron. Is there anyone else that could testify about all those acts of physical abuse that Mr. Barron allegedly committed against you other than Mr. Barron?
No, there's not.
I want to talk to you about some of the statements that you made throughout this case. First, I'm going to talk about the body cam. So you told Deputy Thomas that Mr. Barron shot at you, correct?
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Well, I didn't know if he shot at me or not. I heard a loud noise up there, and I couldn't tell if it was a door slamming or a shot.
You tell him numerous times that Mr. Barron shot at you, correct?
Correct.
And not once to Deputy Thomas do you ever specify, I actually don't know if he shot at me, it could have been the door slam, to Deputy Thomas, correct?
I believe I did say a couple times that it could be the door shutting.
To Deputy Thomas in the body cam?
I'm not sure to who I said it to, but I said it to several people.
Then you told Deputy Thomas that Mr. Barron grabbed you by the neck and drug you up the stairs, correct?
Correct, yes, I did tell him that, I think. I can't remember.
At 3140, would it help refresh your recollection if I played the clip where you told Deputy Thomas that he grabbed me by the neck and dragged me up the stairs?
Yes, it
Would help? Okay. Gonna get as close to 3140 as possible.
I'll ask you a couple more questions. What I can't understand.
I'm scared.
The little one, could you find
The wrong way. The police pulled me over. I got put in jail. It's kicking me.
I'm gonna start it at 3002.
And they put me on this. I had to sleep on cement all night. But I didn't lose my license. All because of this affair. That hate.
We put a little few stickers on you, okay?
Is he alive?
You're taking him to the hospital right now, okay?
What is that? He's dead, isn't he?
They don't transport if they don't have anything, so when he left, he was alive.
He was?
Yes.
Oh my God!
Chill out.
Oh, baby!
Listen, you need to breathe, okay? You keep focusing on
No, I
you.
can't.
Focus on you.
I was trying to, I want to work this out, and he doesn't love me, I know, but I don't know.
Right now, let's focus on you, okay?
I don't know he's alive. Oh my God! I love him. You don't understand. I love him. We bought this house together.
I'm gonna put this back on you, okay? Alright, can you sit still as possible for me so I can get accurate readings on you, okay? I'll make sure you're okay, alright? That's my job right now.
see if there's anything trouble.
He grabbed me by the neck and dragged me upstairs.
The little one.
Did you hear that, Miss Mericle?
Yes, I did.
He grabbed me by the neck and dragged me upstairs.
Yes, correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Well, I was hysterical at the time, so yes,
So yes.
yes.
So just decided to make that up, that Mr. Barron grabbed you by the neck and dragged you up the stairs, even though that in fact did not happen?
I was hysterical. I don't even remember what I said.
Then later on, approximately a couple minutes later, do you remember telling the paramedic that he held you by your throat and tried to pull you up the stairs? Do you remember telling him that a couple minutes later?
Yes,
So again, doubling down on Mr. Barron grabbing you by your throat and dragging you up the stairs, which is in fact false, correct?
yes,
And then you, let's see, you also tell the paramedic 2 different times that Mr. Barron had been drinking too much alcohol that night. Do you remember talking to the paramedic about that?
I don't remember exactly, but
Do you remember stating, I told him he was drinking too much and he got so mad at me?
no, I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection if I played a clip of the body cam?
Okay,
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna hit play at 52:19.
Right, 15 area copy, please. 415.
Oh, baby.
Bravo, you know 7. DYD 7.
Oh, God. I told him he was drinking too much and he got so mad at me.
Did you hear that, Miss Mericle?
yes, I did.
So is that you saying that I told him he was drinking too much and he got so mad at me?
Yes, I did say that.
Mr. Barron had in fact not been drinking alcohol that night, correct?
Correct.
So that was also a lie.
Well, he was drinking it during the day, but not at night.
So when you told the or I guess this is to the officers, when you told the deputies that one of the reasons that Mr. Barron got angry at you that night was because you told him he was drinking too much alcohol, that was in fact a lie.
No, I may have told him that because I thought he was, but he wasn't.
You thought he was drinking, but he wasn't?
No, he was drinking earlier in the daytime.
So he was mad at you earlier in the day as well then, it sounds like.
Yes,
So I thought that, isn't it correct that you had stated that the day was actually perfectly fine, correct?
part of the day was, yes,
You guys went and got your provisional license, correct?
right,
Went to Olive Garden for lunch, correct?
right,
You were watching a movie earlier in the night, correct?
well, I was watching the movie, he was sleeping.
He was sleeping. So at some point, apparently, he was drinking too much and got mad at you for calling him out for it, sounds like?
During the afternoon.
Okay. You also talked about in this body cam, do you remember stating basically that Mr. Barron said that if you moved, you were talking about wanting to sell the lake house, that you and Mr. Barron were fighting about wanting to sell the lake house. Do you remember talking about that?
No, I do not.
Okay. Let's go to a little bit ahead. I'm going to hit play at 54:42.
That I was just gonna move forward, that I couldn't deal with it. And he got so mad at me. I don't. I'm just told him if he wanted to be with her, he could. I told him I wasn't mad at him. I'm just tired. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I just said if I started dating, we had a nice night. I got mad. I told him that I didn't want this house anymore. That he told me he didn't want the house. He said, "Do you want it?" I said, "Let's just sell it." And I told him, because he's been paying that woman in Romania money, and I just said, "You can pay the rent for the next 6 months, and let's just not see each other, talk to each other, and let's just." And he said, "If I moved on, he would kill me."
So you told deputies that Mr. Barron told you that basically you wanted to sell the house, and he basically said, if you move on, that he's going to kill you, correct?
I couldn't understand what I was saying on there, but yeah, yes.
You want me to go back and?
No, I just couldn't pick it up with my ear.
Sure, I can play it back. I'll go back 20 seconds. So I'm going to hit play again at 56:33.
Not see each other, talk to each other, and let's just. And he said, "If I moved on, he would kill me." And he told me to.
Were you able to hear it that time?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay. Mr. Barron had actually been the one to try and break up with you a couple times, though. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Do you remember when Investigator Mefford was testifying on direct last week? Do you remember that?
When he testified
Yes, correct.
yesterday?
Last week, so it would have been Friday.
Okay, yes.
Do you remember him reading some text messages between you and Mr. Barron?
Yes, I do.
I'm gonna show you, oh goodness, I guess I need to figure out what exhibit number this is. Let's see if I can figure this out. This is text from January 13th. So I believe I'm gonna triple check. Yep, This is State's Exhibit 249. So this is text between you and Mr. Barron from January 13th, and you sent him, how many women are you texting? Why did you delete if there was nothing to see? I feel so unwanted by you. Is that correct?
Yes,
You said, I feel like I am not enough for you, correct?
yes,
And he says, wow, correct?
right, yes,
So then you send some more texts talking about you're very sad. I thought I wanted everything for you, or I thought I was everything for you, correct? This is all you in the green.
yes, it is.
And then you say, what does Lilia have, Laura? If you want them, go find them, correct?
Yes,
And then he asks if you're drinking, correct?
yes, he did.
And you say, no, I'm not enough for you, correct?
No, what?
I'm not enough for you?
Yes,
And then you keep responding, you keep texting, you keep texting. Then right here at 8:39 p.m., Mr. Barron says, okay, let's end this. You will never trust me no matter what I tell or say to you. There's nothing that can satisfy you, correct?
correct.
And then you respond, I feel all alone. I know you will never understand. I thought you loved me with all of your heart, but you don't. You care for Lilia, Laura, and I don't know who else. I am tired. I am not at my waterfront a condo trying to figure out what to do, correct?
Yes,
And he says, I don't care for anyone but you can't understand that, correct?
right,
And then he says, I will not come down this weekend and will hire an attorney on our house situation, correct?
correct,
And you say, please call me, you don't have to hire an attorney, correct?
correct.
So you're asking Mr. Barron not to hire an attorney because you don't want him to basically get out of this house situation with you, correct?
No, because we can handle it without an attorney.
Okay, so you are fine with breaking up, you just don't want an attorney to get involved.
Well, he never really said break up. We were just, that would be just like a short little break when he said, okay, I'm never going to make you, you'll never trust me no matter what I tell or say. He didn't actually say he was breaking up, but it was just the beginning of it.
So he said, okay, let's end this.
Right,
You will never trust me no matter what I say, tell you or say, there's nothing that I can do to satisfy you.
right, that time we did, yes.
Okay, so this is him attempting to break up with you,
Yes.
correct? Okay. So I want to talk about, well, I guess first, also in Deputy Thomas's body cam, you talk about the DUI, correct? The DUI arrest.
Yes,
And you told the deputy that you decided to drive home because you leave around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning anyway, pretty much, correct?
correct,
And then at some point, you kind of switch that a little bit and you tell the deputy, well, he made me leave, correct?
correct.
And then later on in your interview with Investigator Mefford, you also talk about your DUI arrest, correct?
Correct,
And you give him this like long elaborate story about how you guys got into a fight that night, correct?
correct,
And that Mr. Barron went up into the room and locked the door to go to sleep, correct?
I don't remember exactly, but
Sure. Would you like to listen to a clip of your interview? Would you like
no,
to
I
listen?
remember, no, I mean, I remember what he said, but I just don't remember that vividly right now. That's what I mean.
Okay.
I remember I said it to him.
Let's see. Here's your interview. I'm going to go to about 38 minutes.
About, I leave between 3 and 4 anyway. So I got up, got dressed.
I was lucky. I'm going to go back about 20 seconds and I'm going to hit play at 38:31.
I went upstairs because it was I laid there for about 3 hours. I couldn't go to sleep, so I thought I was going to go on to St. Simon's because I usually get up I leave between 3 and 4 anyway. So I got up and got dressed and got all my stuff and put it in my car. And then I went upstairs and knocked, he had the door locked. I knocked the door and I said I was leaving, and then I got the rest of my stuff and put it in the car. So I walked back in and I was going to tell him goodbye, and he was sitting on the steps, on the second flight of steps. And he said, good, get out of here, or whatever. You know, he didn't try to talk me into staying. And so I left. And I had 3 major surgeries.
So, that's a story you told Investigator Mefford about the DUI, correct?
Yes,
And it's your testimony that, in fact, none of that is true, correct?
correct. I wasn't going to tell him anything that happened, that David did to me that night.
And you testified that what actually happened that night was he woke you up tapping your foot with his gun,
Yes,
and that he held your arms above your head, correct?
yes,
And that he lifted up your shirt, correct?
yes,
And he started, you said, slapping or beating your breasts.
yes,
Did you have any bruising from that event?
yes, I did.
Can you kind of explain to me what did the bruising look like?
Just big bruises over my breast.
Like big
I
visible
like
ones?
the pictures of my arm, but put those on my breast.
So those bruises we saw on your arm looks just like that, but on your breast?
No, similar to that.
Similar to that, okay.
They were black and blue.
So really visible bruising.
Visible bruising, yes.
Okay. Is there a reason why bruising wouldn't have been noted in your jail intake form from that night?
They didn't even undress me. All they did was bring me in there and push me in a cell, and they took off my shoes, that's it. They never questioned me about anything, or looked at my clothes, or did anything.
So if the jail intake form went through detailed list of how your body looked that night and said that there was no marks, scratches, or bruising on your body, that would be because they didn't look at your body?
They didn't look at my body.
Okay. So, moving on. You repeatedly told Investigator Mefford that you did not shoot Mr. Barron's gun, correct?
Correct,
But then your testimony was that you did shoot Mr. Barron's gun.
correct.
I want to ask you about what you told Investigator Mefford about this whole kitchen interaction when these live shell casings came out. Do you remember talking about that with Investigator Mefford?
Did you say kitchen?
When you were in the kitchen with Mr. Barron and he was having you play with his gun. Do you remember telling that
Yes.
story?
Yes, I do remember that.
Was that whole entire story a complete lie?
It was not true. The story was not true because I didn't want to let him know that I was ashamed to admit that I tried to take my life.
Because you were worried that your fingerprints might be found on his gun, correct?
No, that's not correct because I was afraid my children would see that I tried to commit suicide.
So walk me through how making up that story about you playing with Mr. Barron's gun in the kitchen would be a cover for you attempting to commit suicide.
What do you mean? Say that again?
So the story that you made up to Investigator Mefford about you playing with Mr. Barron's gun in the kitchen was a lie, correct?
Yes.
Help me understand how that story was the story that you came up with to cover up your suicide attempt.
The story I came up with to cover up my suicide attempt.
Is that what that story was,
I
the purpose?
think my hand got jammed in the gun,
Correct.
and that was the reason I said that.
So all I'm asking is for you to help me understand where you got this story about playing with Mr. Barron's gun in the kitchen from.
I just made that up
Why?
because I got the gun jammed in my finger right here, and I didn't want to have to explain that I tried to commit suicide, and that's how it got jammed.
So so the story you gave Investigator Mefford, actually, I'm just going to play it. I'm going to go to 44. We're going to start at 44:25.
And that was another big fight. We keep getting in these fights because of this woman. And that's what we got in a fight that night that I left. And then tonight, that's what we got in a fight with about. And he went into the bedroom and got some stuff because he was going to sleep upstairs. And he got his gun out. And I said, why are you getting your gun out? And we went to the kitchen and he said, I just want it for protection. And I said, okay. And so he said, take the strap off the gun. So
Why did you specifically say that Mr. Barron told you to take the strap off the gun? Why did you add that part to your story?
I don't know.
It wasn't possibly because you were worried that your fingerprints might be on the strap or the button of the gun holster?
I said, I don't know why.
Just decided it would be important to throw in there that you unhooked the holster from the gun.
Well, I unhooked it when I tried to commit suicide.
Okay, we'll talk about that then. You unhooked the gun from the holster when you tried to commit suicide. That's what you're saying?
Right.
But you say multiple times to Investigator Mefford that, in fact, Mr. Barron's gun was laying right next to his body when you got into the bedroom, correct?
I don't know where his gun was laying.
Was it in the holster or was it not in the holster?
It was on the bed, I believe.
His gun?
Yes, in the holster.
So his gun, so now your testimony is that his gun was in the holster on the bed.
I can't really remember where his gun was. I was hysterical when I got up there.
Well, you would agree, you told Investigator Mefford numerous times that his gun was laying right next to his body when you got in the room, correct?
Correct.
And that you remember even pushing the gun to the side when you got into the room to check on Mr. Barron, correct?
Okay, correct.
But now your testimony is that his gun was actually in the holster on the bed when you got into the bedroom?
I really can't honestly remember where the gun was. I was hysterical when I got in there. I know it was either on the bed or on the floor.
Okay, so now we have no idea where the gun was when you got into the room.
I can't remember.
Okay. But so now going back to my original question of your statement was that you talked about taking the strap off of the gun because you had to take the strap off of the gun when you tried to commit suicide, correct?
Correct.
So that's why you threw that in there about the kitchen story?
I guess. I really don't remember.
So is it potentially because you were worried about your fingerprints being on the snap of the holster?
No, not really. That's not why I said that.
So why did you say that then?
I don't know why.
Okay. I'm gonna hit play again. I had paused it at 45:11. I'm gonna hit play.
He said, this is what you need to get on your gun, because I don't have a strap around my gun. And then he said, is this gun to you? He said, put it in your hands and hold it, because, I mean, I got to take lessons. And he told me if that gun fits my hand. And then he took the gun in his hand, and he took his briefcase and took it on his shoulder. And then and I asked him to come, don't go upstairs, just talk about it and try to not be mad at each other and just talk about it normal.
So why did you add in the part in that story about how the gun fit just nicely in your hand? What was the point in throwing that false detail into that story?
I don't remember why the reason was.
I'm going to skip ahead to 158. Am I at 150? Yeah, 130. Oh, I'm way off. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to hit play at 158:01.
Understand this one more time. I'm going to explain this again, okay?
Okay.
So he's up, let's start with going up the stairs. Okay, start there.
Okay. So we're downstairs on the kitchen, by the kitchen. Okay. He has his gun. That's when he takes it out of the case and asks me if my hands, I have a top, if my hand can go around his gun. He told me to take his cover off the gun, take it upstairs, see if you know. So I did that. There was no gun, nothing got fired or anything. Okay, I pulled that thing back. He told me to pull it back.
Yes.
Okay, that's when 2 or 3 of them fell out on the floor.
Just stop pulling back.
So again, you specifically mentioned that you took the gun out of the holster, correct?
You're correct.
And that he told you to hold the gun, and then you explicitly talk about pulling the slide back to the gun, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just to be clear, you could hear him talking to you through the door that night, correct?
I heard him say yes to me.
So it wasn't that you could not hear him on the other side of the door, correct?
I heard him say yes.
You also heard him make a noise when he was shot, correct?
Yes.
And why were you so, in this story, you're very specific with Investigator Mefford that you flushed those shell casings down the downstairs toilet in the master bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And you're very adamant about, I did not flush them upstairs, I only flushed them downstairs, correct?
Yes, I couldn't remember where I flushed them. I was hysterical at the time.
Okay, so that was just a mistake that you were being very adamant about where you flushed those bullets.
Yes.
Why? This story was basically because you didn't want to admit that you had tried to commit suicide, according to you, correct?
Correct.
So how did you know to make up that you flushed the shell casings? Why throw that in there?
Because I didn't want them to know that the shellings were there, because I cleaned them up after I jammed the cuff on. After I jammed the gun, then the bullets fell out, and I wanted to hide the bullets from not being able to tell. That's why I had the gun in my hand.
And Investigator Mefford continuously asks you about those shell casings, correct?
Correct.
And repeatedly you tell him that you have never touched the shell casings, correct?
Correct.
Which is also a lie.
Correct. Yes, I just said that I didn't touch them because I didn't want to tell anything. I didn't want to say anything to him about what had happened.
But you did say that you flushed live rounds down the toilet in the master bedroom, correct?
Correct.
And so you didn't tell him that just in case they did find flush shell casings in the septic line. That's your testimony? You didn't say that just in case they did find these casings?
I wasn't even thinking about what I flushed down the toilet, really and truly. I was just trying to flush them down to clean up after I tried to commit suicide, so no one would know that I had his gun trying to commit it. That's what I was trying to do.
It seems like every fight that you and Mr. Barron got in essentially revolved around Lilia, correct?
Say that again?
Every fight that you and Mr. Barron got in revolved around Lilia?
Not every fight, no.
Is that what you repeatedly tell people, that the only thing you fight about is Lilia?
Tell who?
Everyone that you've told about Lilia.
No, I don't tell them that.
How many people do you think that you've told about Lilia?
About Lilia?
Could you name them off for me, all the people that you've told?
My sister, Dana Gardner.
Okay.
My sister, Leslie Fenoy.
Okay.
My girlfriend, Jenny Hall.
Okay.
Beth Barron, Evan Barron. And I think that's all.
How about Jessica?
Jessica. Maybe Jessica. I don't remember telling Jessica about it.
How about Judy and Mike? Your friends Judy and Mike?
Oh, David told them about it.
So you've talked to Judy and Mike about it?
David did.
David told them?
Yes, they confronted David. I talked to him first, and then they confronted David when he came over.
So you talked to Judy and Mike first?
They were with me the night I called Evan.
So you told Judy and Mike first then?
They heard me. They overheard my conversation.
Okay, so you told Judy and Mike first then?
Yeah, they overheard the conversation while I was talking to Evan.
Okay.
And then when David came over later on, they confronted David about it.
Because they found out from you, correct?
They found out because they overheard the conversation when I was talking to Evan.
You also told your son McLean, correct?
I'm not sure I told him exactly about Lilia or not. I just told him he was going to have to move out because we were having problems.
In the times that you and Mr. Barron got in fights about Lilia, David would basically separate himself from you, correct?
No, not correct. Not always.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. So December 28th is the first night you found out about Lilia, correct?
I found out that she was texting him, yes.
And that night, he left and went to a hotel, correct?
Exactly, yes.
And you disagree with Evan's testimony that you pointed the gun at Mr. Barron that night, correct?
Correct.
But Evan's testimony was that you called him frantic, saying that you pointed the gun at Mr. Barron, correct?
I did not have a gun with me that night. I flew to Atlanta that weekend, and you can't take a firearm with you.
Okay, and Mr. Barron was yelling because he wanted to get his keys so that he could leave, correct?
The keys were on the bathroom counter.
And you had locked yourself in the bathroom.
I locked myself in the bathroom in the commode. There's a separate part of the commode area, and that's why I locked myself. But the keys were right out there. He was right there beside him. I kept telling him the keys were right there, and he wouldn't listen.
So he's yelling for his keys because he wants to leave to go to a hotel, but his keys are sitting right there?
His keys are right there on the vanity, yes.
And then January 4th, you get into another fight about Lilia, correct?
Yes.
And David, again, leaves and goes to a hotel, correct?
Well, no, that's the night. He didn't know I found out about her that night. That's the night he threw my purse out the window of my car, and then I had his stuff, and he didn't come pick it up. I left his stuff at Seagate Inn for him to pick up, and he didn't pick it up. So I took it with me in my car, and then I found out that I read through his briefcase. I was looking through a satchel bag, and I saw where he was sending family. It said family support on the letters to the money for Lilia. But
Right.
he didn't know I found out that night.
So that's the night, January 4th is the night where you went through his briefcase, correct?
I went through his, the satchel bag.
The satchel
Yes, I
bag.
got it out and went, but he was already at a hotel. Got in a
And
fight earlier.
so he was already at the hotel.
Right, because I told him he couldn't stay with me that night.
So he left and went to a hotel. That was
I
my
told him he
original
couldn't-
question.
I told him he couldn't stay with me, so that he had no choice but to leave.
Okay, so he left that time too. Then on February 1st, this is the St. Simon's incident.
Yes,
He was also trying to leave the condo in St. Simon's, correct?
I asked him again to leave because he slapped me.
So all of these are because you were asking him to leave, apparently.
Well, he didn't have a place to stay, so he had to go find a hotel.
So he's trying to leave, correct?
Not trying to leave, he left.
He's trying to get in to get his belongings so that he can leave that night, correct?
I already put his belongings outside the door.
Well, earlier you testified that you said that you were going to go up and get his stuff, but then he followed you up and then he was trying to push his way into the condo to get his things.
I was putting the stuff out the door, and he comes in the door. I was putting the stuff out the front door, and he comes up to it, and that's when he pushes me backwards.
So when the police came, all of his stuff should be outside the door?
It was right there by the door. It was right there by the kitchen door.
Inside or outside?
Part of it was outside, and part of it was inside.
So again, on body cam that we have, some of his stuff should be waiting outside for him.
No, it wasn't waiting out there for him. I'd put it right by the kitchen door, so it was still inside.
Okay, so it was still inside,
Well,
correct?
because he came up there and banged the door open, that's why.
Okay, so I'm just confused because 2 seconds ago, you testified that all of his stuff was already outside and the reason that you wouldn't let him in was because he was trying to come in anyway.
No, all of his stuff was not outside.
Well, then you said some of his stuff was outside and some of his stuff was inside,
Some of it was inside by the kitchen and some was by the door.
but all of it was inside of
It
the
was
condo.
inside, right.
Okay, so he could not leave until he was able to get inside the condo to get his belongings,
Right,
correct?
and I was trying to get him out to the door for him.
Okay. February 16th, that's the night you get arrested for DUI, correct?
Yes,
And he has locked himself up in the guest bedroom, correct?
yes,
And March 7th, get in a fight about Lilia again, correct? March
Yes.
7th. And he has locked himself up in the guest bedroom, correct?
yes.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about your phone. So your testimony was that the reason that you attempted to shoot the lock off the doors because you wanted to get your phone, correct?
Correct.
Because he had your phone, correct?
Yes, he did have my phone.
And he had, at this point, told you that he had your phone, correct?
Yes.
Is this before or after he forced you to perform oral sex on him?
This is after, well, he had my phone in the beginning. He had my phone in the beginning. Remember when I asked for where my phone was? And he told me I wasn't getting my phone and no one was going anywhere tonight.
So he gets his satchel, correct?
Yes.
And his gun, correct?
He already had his gun in his hand.
Already had his gun in his hand. And then presumably he already had your phone in his hand as well, correct?
He had my phone. I don't know where he had it, in his pocket or in the briefcase, but he had my phone. I didn't see my phone.
And then all of a sudden he puts those things down and forces you to perform oral sex on him, correct?
No, he didn't have them before that.
Okay, so when did he get the satchel?
After he pushed me backwards and told me not to close my eyes tonight.
Okay.
That's when he got his satchel and everything else. But he already had the phone. I guess it was in his pocket.
Did you notice the phone in his pocket when you were forced to take his pants off?
No, I didn't.
So he pushes you back, grabs the satchel. You said he's already got his gun and
Right.
presumably already has your phone, correct?
Right, he already had my phone in the beginning before any of this even happened.
And then he tells you not to go to sleep tonight, correct?
Correct.
And you walk up, or he walks up the stairs and locks himself in the guest bedroom, correct?
After he did everything to me, yes.
And so you go and get your gun.
Yes.
From where?
From the closet.
And you walk back towards the stairs, correct?
Correct.
And then I think you testified that you kind of sat at the bottom of the stairs for a little bit to think about what you were going to do, correct?
Contemplating, yes, what I was going to do.
And you didn't want to walk out the front door because of the wild dogs.
I didn't want to walk out the front door because I'd have to go down that road. That was pitch black dark.
With the wild dogs?
Those dogs.
Okay. And there's at least 3 or 4 neighbors, like, within a 2-second walk from your house, correct?
A little bit longer, yeah. There's 1, 2, 4 neighbors around my house.
Because you live in a cul-de-sac.
Correct.
Or the house was in a cul-de-sac.
Right.
And you didn't think that the best idea would be to go knock on one of their doors and get help, correct?
Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't know who was there and who was not there. It was pitch black dark out.
Didn't want to try?
I didn't know anybody, and it was kind of, it just didn't seem like the right thing to do, to knock on someone's door at 1 o'clock in the morning.
But the right thing to do was to take your firearm and try and shoot the lock off of a bedroom door, correct?
Well, I was hysterical at the time, so I couldn't even think of what to do. To tell you the truth, I was scared for my life.
Well, you thought enough to sit down at the bottom of the stairs and decide you didn't want to face the wild dogs, correct?
I didn't sit down at the bottom of the stairs. I stood up and just thought about it. It took maybe 30 seconds, maybe at the most 30 seconds I was down there.
Okay, I apologize. I thought that on direct you would testify that you sat at the bottom of the stairs and thought about what to do.
When I sat, today I said that?
Correct.
Oh, I didn't mean to say sat. I just meant like stood there.
Stood there. So you stand there and you think that the most reasonable thing to do is to take your firearm, go up the stairs and fire at a locked door where somebody else is on the other side of it.
No, I didn't think like that. I thought that, number one, I didn't know any of the neighbors, so I wasn't going to go just walk up to their door. And then number two, I thought that I could hit the lock on the door and that would get my gun back. I mean, get my phone back. That's all I wanted was my phone back. I would have thought that he'd take my phone and put it out there.
You ever fired a gun at a lock successfully before?
No, I've never have.
You know if that's even possible to fire your gun at a door to unlock it?
You can fire, I think, at a gun. I don't know, but you can fire at a locked door.
If you're firing a gun at a door lock so that you can unlock it, you walked up pretty close to the door, didn't you?
I was about a foot away.
And the tip of your gun was about 6 inches away, correct?
I'm not sure.
And And your game plan was to shoot the lock off the door, correct?
Correct.
Presumably, standing behind that door is Mr. Barron with his gun, correct?
I don't know where he was.
Well, you know he had gone into the bedroom and locked the door,
Right,
correct?
but I didn't know if he was standing behind the door with his gun.
You know he's in the bedroom.
Right, I know he's in the bedroom.
Okay, so you're shooting the lock off of a bedroom door where presumably Mr. Barron is in that bedroom with a firearm, correct?
Correct.
He has just assaulted you physically, correct?
Correct.
He has just forced you to commit oral sex sodomy on him, essentially, correct?
Correct.
So he has kicked you down onto the ground, correct?
He's what?
Kicked your legs so that you would fall down to the ground, correct?
Right on my knees.
On your knees, grabbed you by the hair, correct?
Correct.
Held a gun to your head, correct?
Correct. Correct.
And forced you to perform oral sex on him, correct?
Right.
And then threatened to
But I already
basically,
performed oral sex before he got the gun out. Because I did the oral sex, then he got the gun out.
so he
I
never
started
had the
crying.
gun when you were performing oral sex on him?
He had the gun in his hand the whole time. He never put it down once he got it out of the drawer. Once he got it out of the dresser, he never put it down.
So where was the gun when you were being forced to perform oral sex
It
on
was
him?
in his hand.
So he did have the gun out when you were being forced
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't understand what you were saying.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
So he had the gun in his hand.
But you said he put it up to my face before that. He did that afterwards.
So did he just have the gun down by his side while you were
No,
forced?
he did not.
Where was the gun when you were being forced to perform oral
He had
sex?
the gun in his hand.
But where was it being pointed?
It was just standing, it wasn't being pointed at anybody at that point.
Okay.
He didn't
Just-
point it at me till he stuck it to my lips.
And then afterwards, he points the gun to your lips
Yes,
and tells you basically, I'm going to blow your brains out tonight if you.
exactly. Yes,
Okay. And then he's essentially threatened to kill you.
yes,
And then he's gone up with that gun that he's just pointed in your mouth, at your mouth, correct?
yes,
And locked himself in the bedroom door.
yes,
And you said 30 seconds later, you follow him up the stairs, correct?
No, I went and got my gun.
Okay.
Then I came out, and then I stood there about 30 seconds trying to figure out what to do.
So how much time do you think had passed?
Probably about, I don't know, a minute, maybe a minute,
So
minute and a half, maybe.
maybe a minute to a minute and a half at most, since he has pointed a firearm at you, forced you to commit sodomy, and threatened to kill you, correct?
Say that again.
Only between a minute and a half had passed since all those things happened, and you're upstairs with your firearm.
Yes.
Correct. And your game plan is to shoot the lock off of the door, correct?
Yes,
Get inside of the bedroom, correct?
yes.
What was your game plan from there?
Well, all I wanted was my gun. I mean, my cell phone. That's all I wanted was my phone. And so I was trying to think of a way to get my phone. If he would have just put it outside the door, I wouldn't have had to do anything.
And you testified that before you went up the stairs, you were terrified for your life, correct?
Correct.
You thought that if you stayed in that house, Mr. Barron was going to kill you that night.
Yes, I was terrified for my life.
But you were not too terrified to fire a gun at a locked door where Mr. Barron's standing behind it with a loaded gun, correct?
Well, my choices were very few. I needed my phone to get out of there so I could call 911 or an Uber. I didn't have transportation to leave because his car was the only one working. And I didn't want to walk down that dark road, in 2 miles. And I didn't want to go to a neighbor's house because I didn't know any of them. So I thought, number one, I thought that when I walked up there that he would put my phone out the door. That's what I was hoping he would do. And
So-
at this time, I was hysterical.
So presumably, while being in fear for your life, correct?
Yes,
Your safest option between walking out of the house and shooting the lock off of a door where an armed individual is behind it Plan B was your safest option, correct?
Plan B was what?
Your safest option.
It was an option, yes.
Was it your safest option?
Yes, it was safest for me, yes, to go through that, yes.
And so presumably, if you successfully shut the lock off the door, your thought process was Mr. Barron's going to hand you over the phone and let you stand there while you call an Uber for help?
No, I was going to get the phone.
And where were you going to go when you got the phone?
I was going to call 911 and get out of there.
Where were you going to go when you got out of there?
I was going to wait for 911 to come
Where were you going to wait?
outside the front door.
Where the wild dogs are?
No, the dogs aren't there. The dog's down the road that you have to go down to. When you get out of the house, you have to go down this road, and that's the road you have to go down to get to the main road. Is that the street without the lights on it and the dogs?
So presumably, Mr. Barron was going to be calm enough to allow you to stand on the front porch and wait for an Uber or for 911 to come, correct?
No, hopefully he wouldn't come down the stairs. He's the one that left and went up the stairs.
You're right. He is the one who left and went up the stairs, correct?
Right. He went up the stairs after he did what he needed to do to me. And then I'm hysterical downstairs after he did that to me.
So, moving on. You are a dentist, correct?
Yes.
And you're required to be certified in life-saving measures, correct?
Correct.
How often do you get that certification?
Once every 3 years. Every 2 years.
Every 2 years?
Yes,
So
every 2 years.
you get certified in life-saving measures every 2 years?
In CPR, I get certified.
Didn't attempt to perform CPR on Mr. Barron, though, correct?
No, he didn't have a pulse.
So didn't even try?
I didn't have a pulse.
So that's when we just give up, throw our hands up, and call it a day for Mr. Barron's life?
No, I just didn't. He didn't have a pulse. And I called 911.
What you did do was get a towel and start wiping up the blood off of the floor, correct?
Well, I was holding it up to his chest to put pressure on it. And then after I slipped in the blood a few times, I wiped it up, yes.
With that white towel that we saw that was covered in blood?
Well, the brown one and the white one, there were 2 towels.
Correct.
Yes.
So you were concerned about wiping the blood up off of the floor, correct? Because you slipped in it.
Because I slipped in it.
But you were not concerned at all about attempting to perform CPR on Mr. Barron, even though you are certified in life-saving measures, correct?
Well, I tried to turn him over, and I couldn't get him to push over. I couldn't get him to turn, but there was no pulse. I checked the neck, and I checked his ankle, and there was no pulse in either place.
So did you just assume he was dead at that point?
I wasn't sure.
If
I
you
was
were,
hysterical, and I couldn't even remember what I did, to be honest with you.
if you weren't sure that he was dead or not, why not try and perform CPR to try and save his life?
I told you I tried to turn him over, and I couldn't get him over. He's 235 pounds.
You left your car with Mr. Barron when you drove back to St. Simon's on March 3rd of 2025, correct?
Yes.
And at that time, your car was working perfectly fine, correct?
No, it wasn't. The interlock device was messing up on us. That's why I didn't drive it.
You didn't text Mr. Barron, or Mr. Barron didn't text you telling you that the car was working perfectly fine on March 3rd, 2025?
What day is March 3rd?
That would be, I don't know what day of the week it is. Monday? It's a Monday.
Okay, on Monday, the car was working fine. And then Tuesday, it wasn't working fine when I left. That's why I didn't drive the car home. Because we were having trouble with it blowing in the machine. So he told me he'd keep the car for me. And Monday, he used it and went to work. But then Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday morning, it could have been Monday morning, he got up and the car wouldn't start.
So the car wouldn't start when you were going to leave, but then it magically started before you had gotten home?
No, I didn't say it wouldn't start then. When I left the weekend, when I left on Sunday, the car wouldn't start.
This is 270. This is 270. You put, you did, I want to put his name. Well, what number was yours? It's easier because I have it right here.
Okay, that's fine.
What, is the state tendering that?
I was going to, but I know that defense, well, yes, Judge. I'm going to show you what's been marked as states 270. Do you recognize who's texting in that?
Yes.
Is that you and Mr. Barron?
Yeah, that's the day I was leaving.
Okay,
And at first it wouldn't start, but then he got it running.
okay. Judge, I move to tender states 270 into evidence.
No objection, 270.
Admitted.
So Mr. Willis is correct that he had admitted, I can't remember what exhibit number his was, but he had admitted text from this day as well yesterday. And I just wanted to pull it up again. So this is states 270. What we saw yesterday was this text from you and Green saying, "I'm getting on the causeway," correct?
Correct.
And then that was at 3:45. Mr. Barron replies first with a photo, and then at 3:51 says the car is running fine, correct?
Yes.
So you hadn't even made it home yet, but Mr. Barron's telling you the car's running fine.
Yeah, he was blowing in it, and he could blow in it better than I could. I could not make the car. When I would blow in it, it would not start. But when he blew in it, that's why he kept it. That's why I drove home in his car.
Because you actually respond to Mr. Barron, you say, "I gave you the card that with the guy's name on it. Can you call him or send me the number? And I'll call him. It's like a violation was made. I wonder if they know that is you breathing," correct?
Right.
So Mr. Barron is breathing into the intoxilizer that you're supposed to be breathing into to drive your vehicle, correct?
Well, I haven't got my provisional license yet, so I went in and got the interlock device early. So I didn't have the provisional license, so my attorney said that he could drive the car until I get my license.
But you were driving Mr. Barron's car.
Right, that I could drive it with, because I didn't have my provisional license yet.
Okay.
Why don't we break now? It's now 12:35. We'll continue with testimony at 1:45. 1:45, please. Thank you. Please do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not perform any research. Thank you.